From a Jewish perspective, and in particular from a mystical, Kabbalistic, and Hasidic teachings, male and female are as even more distant than Mars and Venus. Even more distant. And yet, the whole point is about how they come together. Understanding that there's a distinction between male qualities and female qualities, recognizing the value in each one, and how the two need to come together is a quality in everything in creation. It's not just how the species work down here, but it's actually down here. It's a reflection the way it works up there. Up there meaning in the spiritual realm, in the divine itself. There's male and female part of the divine. And not only that, in the Torah itself, male and female part. Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zuch Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure for me to share with you every day the Tanya. And as we do with so many of you from so many different parts of the world, and wow, beautiful it is. So we're going to conclude today the 29th letter. We started with a verse, Eshes Chayil Ateres Baila. A woman of valor is the crown of the husband. So a woman, she's the crown. Feminine is crown. What is this idea of the feminine being the crown? So when we speak about Torah, Torah has two components to it. Everything ultimately has two components to it. As we see just in the natural world, there's right, there's left, there's up, there's down, there's light, there's dark, there's good, there's evil. And, you could go on and on, right? And all that comes from male, female, ultimately. Male, female, and the divine. But here we're talking male and female in Torah itself. So the male component of the Torah is the written word of God. The female is the oral Torah that elaborates it. So let's understand. We know that Torah has 613 commandments, biblical commandments. There's also rabbinic law, 7 basic rabbinic commandments, and many others as we will elaborate. So the written word that has 613 commandments, it's hidden, it's covered, it's concealed, those laws or those commandments. And it's only in the oral Torah where it is revealed. So let's give an example. The mitzvah of tefillin, phylacteries. That mitzvah, Torah states very clearly, as it says in the Shema, translated, and you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes. Well, that's pretty obscure. What does that mean? I mean, we know today we have these leather boxes that are made, and they have parchments inside, and so on and so forth. But let's very simple. It says, how do you explain the word bind, frontlets, between your eyes, on your hand? So, it's the tefillin on your hand. This is a hand. In the end, we don't put it on the hand. We put it over here on the arm. I mean, the strap goes all the way to the hand, but it begins over here. But from the words, it says on your hand, so maybe it should go there. And then it says between your eyes. Oh, between your eyes. So is that over here? That's between your eyes right there. Well, no, we don't put it. If you put it on your forehead, or literally between your eyes, then No, you don't fulfill the mitzvah. It's got to be over here. It's got to be um, on your scalp, not on your forehead. Furthermore, we know, again, as mentioned, square black boxes. Doesn't say there anywhere in those words. Right? Likewise, all the commandments in the Torah, all of them literally have the same issue. Whether they're positive commandments, negative commandments, they are not explicit in the written word. It's only through the oral Torah that we get that. So for perfect example, it says on Shabbos, the Sabbath. We all know you're not allowed to work on Shabbos. Well, what does that mean? Right? The word is lo yisaseh kol malacha. Don't do any malacha. First of all, the word malacha is work, but what does it constitute work? Well, nowhere in the Torah does it say what work is. The only thing that it does mention is about a fire, and it speaks about being in your home and not going out. But that's it. It's only the oral Torah that explains to us the details, that we know there are 39 forms of work. Well, where do we get that from? Is juxtaposition with what the Torah says, with building the sanctuary for God. And from there, we know that there's 39 prohibitive works. So the work, for example, is not like hard labor. Like if you were to take a beam and carry it back and forth in your home a whole day, right? That would not be called work, biblical work. Now, maybe you shouldn't do that because you're not using your day properly. But the biblical law of work, if you were carrying heavy beams in your home, that's not a biblical prohibition. So where do we get that from? The oral Torah. Now with that we can understand that the oral Torah is as King Solomon said, called it, do not cast off the teachings of your mother. Why is it called mother? Well, because the father, what does he give to the child? He gives a seed, right? Which comes as an expression of chachma, which the Torah that is an expression of the male is chachma, but chachma like a seed. You ain't gonna get a child from that seed. The potential of life is there, but the gestation of 9 months and the development of the seed into a fetus, into a complete child, that only takes place by the mother, right? Meaning that the mother is the one who takes and develops everything, reveals everything. That's mother. That now we can understand a woman of valor, how she's the crown of her husband, meaning the feminine part of Torah, the oral Torah. This term, a woman of valor, right? Well, because what's a woman of valor? She gives birth, right? To many legions. So what's that metaphor over here? The woman, the feminine part of the Torah, gives birth to many laws. It develops it into many laws. That's the oral tradition. Again, we have one law that the Torah says that you shall not work on the Sabbath, on Shabbos. Right? That's the kernel, that's the seed, that's what the Father gives. Right? The divine wisdom. But that divine wisdom now has to go into Bina, Chachma into Bina to build it, to develop it. And that gives then to many laws that are manifest that manifest the supernal will of God, that was hidden in the written word, that's hidden in the seed of the Father. And the supernal will then of God is revealed, that which is supernal will is what we call the crown of the divine, Sphira of Keser, literally means crown. That's exceedingly more sublime than the level of divine wisdom. So the divine wisdom, the Father gives, the male component. But on top of that is the crown, which is an expression of the divine will. In other words, the wisdom of God is in the 5 books of Moses that we have, the 613 commandments, but it's only there as a seed, as wisdom is, Chokhmah is. Right? Merely the potential that is there, but needs to be realized through Bina, developed by the woman. And woman has more Bina than the man does, and therefore that's why she develops in physical life the child, and in divine metaphor the development of the written word that's now fully developed and explained and understood, and hence exceedingly more sublime. It becomes the crown of the wisdom. And that's why the halacha, the Jewish law, is referred to as the crown of the Torah, because it reveals ultimately what God wants. In other words, if I merely are learning the 5 books of Moses, which is very important, we have that class every day, 8:30, 8:40 in the morning, that we study together, right? Not on, on Chabad ZK Facebook and on Zoom, not on Instagram or Clubhouse, but on Facebook it's on Chabad ZK. But we learn that, and it's really important to learn so we can understand. But we have Rashi to explain, because we need the oral Torah to give us a simple understanding. But here we're talking about that we need to understand the divine will of God. He gives a commandment. How do we fulfill it? The oral Torah becomes the crown that expresses, as a crown is something transcendent of the head. Divine will of God is transcendent even divine wisdom, and that is through the law how we then know what to do. And therefore, someone who studies Jewish law is assured a share in the world to come, because they invest their nefesh, ruach, neshama, their soul, in the supernal will of God. And wow, amazing. That gives them a share of the world to come. Hence, what we're going to do after this class? We're going to learn Rambam, Maimonides. And what's Maimonides' teachings? It is the oral Torah. It is that crown that gives us the halachas, the Jewish law, that we just said here, is revealing the will of God, of what we need to do, how do we need to lead our lives. And when we invest ourselves in that, we get a share in the world to come. Ooh. And we get a real connection with our dear Rebbe, as he's the one who instituted these studies. And we become aware of what God needs of us. So it's not just about knowing what to do, which is an element, of course, that's what the divine will teaches, but it's the crown. It's the crown of Torah. It's the connection to the will of God in the study itself, right, as an end in itself. All right, any questions, any comments? Heavy duty stuff. Let's just say hello to Daphne, Cindy, Czar, Davida and Liba, Diane, Karen, Chava, Julia. Madeline, how are you managing? Only have joyous occasions. Simcha, John, Lordana, Lorraine, Yan, Mordechai, Elise, Michelle. Yeah, we're going to get to questions in just a moment. Vilma, Celeste, Akoy, Astro, Alice. I'm trying to make out some names I can't. Myrna. Welcome, Myrna. Amy. Telebenta. Jennifer. Okay. So let's get to some questions over here. Over here, over there. What did Hashem create first, the oral or written Torah? I'd say they come together, although the way it expressed itself is the written word first and then the oral. Let me explain. In other words, the oral is continuing. Something that we had in a previous letter, in letter 26, I think it was, if I recall. Yeah. Letter 26, if you recall. The Jewish law doesn't end. The written word is 613 commandments. There's 305,804. I think that's the correct number. Letters in the Torah. There's not going to be one less or one more. Ain't changing. Right? But there are going to be new law. So, for example, what's the law about a cell phone on Shabbos? If you're working for Hatzalah, or you're volunteering for Hatzalah, for example, you need to know that's a new law that didn't exist 30 years ago. Right? Someone who's volunteering for Hatzalah, saving lives on Shabbos, and they need a phone. The parameters on using that phone, just giving, right, that's a new law. So that's something that is continuous. So the oral tradition is continuous. The written word is carved in stone. So I don't know if it's about what came first and second. I don't know if that's, what was revealed first is written and then the oral. Elise, when was the oral Torah written? How long ago after the written Torah? So it was told to Moses at Mount Sinai. Now, Moses, pretty smart guy, and he's getting God to teach him directly. So in every verse, God is teaching him, right? He was up on the mountain 40 days for 3 different occasions, 120 days just on top of the mountain, which, okay, he was pleading with God, but God was teaching him the Torah, not just the written word, because, hey, he'd get that pretty quick. But the oral tradition was told to him. And oral, what's oral? Verbal. It wasn't written. When was it first written? It was in the second century, by Yehuda Nasi, Judah the prince. He wrote the Mishnah. That's the first writing of the oral tradition. Till then, it was handed down verbally. So you had, back in the day, they would study everything at least 100 times in the academy, because you need to know it by heart. And you had thousands of students learning. Why? So that way the Torah will not be cast away. The oral tradition will not be cast off, as King Solomon said. But it was all oral. It was only written, and the only reason it was written, because it's meant to be oral, and even when it was written, it still had an oral flavor to it in the Mishnah, because it was a fear. It was written down because it was a fear what the future generations would happen if it was not written down, that we would lose some of the teachings. Okay? So that's how they studied Mordechai. They studied, before the Talmud was written, it was verbal. And it was, imagine, at least 100 times was the normative way to teach every teachings. And we're talking about, great minds, but yet you gotta go over it 100 times because it's verbal. You've got to make sure that the tradition is maintained. So the Mishnah was written in 100 and something, year 100 and something, by Yehuda Nasi. And then Ravina Ravashi, they wrote the Gemara, and the Talmud is a compilation of both the Mishnah and the Gemara that explains the Mishnah. And that was written at the end of the 5th century. So I answered all those questions. Joseph, what is the process of revising Jewish law? You don't revise it. You can't revise Jewish law. It's all based on principles. It's all based on jurisprudence, on previous rulings, and you have to base yourself on previous. Like today, you would have to, for example, like certain things that are today a given. Like in other words, whatever's in the Talmud, that's accepted. We're not revisiting and looking at an issue that the Talmud dealt with, right? That's written down in the Talmud, that is, in a new manner. Now, if there's a new issue, right? Like I mentioned, cell phones on Shabbos for those who are volunteering for Hatzolah, right? Hatzolah is the Jewish ambulance, non-profit. People volunteer to go and help a life. They get there before 911. Ambulance would get there, and save many a life or help many a life. In any case, the point being that there's now, because of driving, what happens if you went and helped somebody and you drove there, because it's a question of life and death? Can you drive back now to your home, or do you have to stay where you are till the end of Shabbos? Well, that's a new issue in Jewish law, because 200 years ago there were no cars. Now there is, so it becomes an issue. How do you look at that? So there's parameters in Jewish law, and you take on jurisprudence, and based on previous similar issues, that you would look at it, and therefore that's why you can get a difference of opinion between one sage and another, which is fine. Okay. Instagram is in to tell a Benta as because women have more bina, is that why the Mashiach will come in the merit of women? Yeah, because they're going to develop, yes, the truth to that. If man was created first, does that mean that all masculine things are created before the feminine? Well, I mean, before you can have bina, what do you have to have? Chachma. You have to have the seed, the kernel of an idea, before you can develop it. Can't develop something if you don't have what to develop. So the masculine quality comes first. right? The masculine quality of the seed comes first, and from that seed now you can develop it into a fetus. Can't have a fetus without it, right? So yes, masculine quality comes first. Adam came first. The written word came first, but came first. Just it's in a sequential manner. That's how it came first. Like it's not, if you have chachma without bina, in the end you won't have chachma, because if you have an idea and you don't develop it, right, you're gonna lose the idea. You're gonna lose it. It's in the development that you will it always needs to remain with its integrity to its chachma, right, to the chachma, to be a revelation of that, right? So the fetus needs to be a revelation of the seed, not a revelation of something else. And so the two need to come together. You can't have one without the other. Bina obviously can't build something if you have not, if you have no mortar, you can't build a home. If you have mortar, you don't have a home until you make it into building blocks and build, block at a time. So if you have you can't build an idea if you don't have the idea first. I hope that's clear. More questions on Instagram, sure. Okay, Carlos. If a woman was created last, does that make woman closest being to the image of Hashem? No, again, you need both, so, I mean, she's, creation 2.0, so she's better. Right? Alice, is Rambam considered studying halacha? Absolutely, it is halacha. He calls it himself halachas halachas. Yeah, so no, I understand, Carlos. That is it better? It's creation 2.0. On the one level, you could say that. But I don't think that's the point over here. The point, I mean, in a sense, it is the point, because remember, man is chachma, Torah is divine wisdom, but divine wisdom in and of itself will not lead you to know the will of God, which is the crown, which is beyond wisdom. Will is greater than your intelligence, right? Your will is stronger or more all-encompassing of an individual. Okay? Okay, great questions today. Amazing. Beautiful. Okay. So we're going to do Rambam now. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. A reminder, tomorrow night is going to be the JLI Kabbalah course. Several of you are already signed up. Many of you are not. First class was something else. Urge you can still get in on it. We'll send you the first class, and that way you'll have everything that you need as we build the building blocks of Kabbalistic mystical teachings in the JLI. If you go to JLI Montreal, JLIMontreal.com, and there you'll get. Okay, let me just put it up. There it is. All right. Have a wonderful day. Rambam coming up. Thank you.